If you look up the meaning of the word Sabbath as per the biblical definition, you realize that it means the end, to cease, to desist, or to rest. However, when we are speaking with regards to Neville Goddard's teaching, it's this feeling of knowing that creation is finished, that the mental work of imagining is done. You do not dwell in the feeling of the Sabbath state consciously, but rather it's something that happens to you naturally as you impress your subconscious mind with the state of the wish fulfilled. You will naturally begin to feel gratitude, and you'll also experience the feeling of resting. Keep in mind that the Sabbath happens naturally and you shouldn't force it, as in you shouldn't be paranoid that you haven't yet reached the state of Sabbath. As long as you still feel the urge to imagine a firm script, you should continue to do so. When you've had your fill and you're really ready to move on to other desires in your imagination, you will automatically spend less time doing all these practices, and that's when you'll know that you've reached the state. So there's no universal prescription for everyone. There's no one-size-fits-all solution that you should affirm for so long before expecting to reach the state. It varies from desire to desire, depends on how big your desire is relative to your current reality, relative to your belief system, and it also is a subject of your personality. Meaning, if you're someone who's too obsessive, someone who can't get rid of your manifestations, your goals, then chances are you'll struggle with it slightly more than the person who's generally more detached, generally more aloof, and can focus on other things going on in his or her life. Let me read a quote from Neville Goddard's text. "The Sabbath is only the mystical sense of stillness when you are unconcerned, when you are not anxious, when you are not looking for results, knowing that signs follow and do not precede. The Sabbath is a day of stillness when there is no working." In saying signs follow and do not precede, Neville is implying that the Sabbath follows your desire, which is him mentioning that creation is finished. So you shouldn't rely on the Sabbath state too much, as in you shouldn't tell yourself that if I haven't reached the Sabbath, it means that my manifestations are not on the way. So in the Bible, the Sabbath is the day of stillness wherein there is no working. It is the seventh day when God takes rest, but one shouldn't take this too literally, as in you shouldn't overly concern yourself with what this number 7 means and how it applies to your manifestation. Remember that the 6 working days, which also correspond to the 6 working days of our daily lives, is symbolic of you fully feeling it real. It's not 6 physical days in literal sense. 6 means completion. You feeling it real until fully feels real and natural. Rest mentally during the Sabbath, the time after you feel it real. Don't try to figure it all out. Instead, go with the flow. Rest inside knowing that it is done. Doing this will have you reacting to the world as that person with the confidence and inner calm that only they could have. So the differences between thinking from the end and the Sabbath state is that we often tend to think from the end in a conscious manner, but Sabbath is often the consequence of already gaining that momentum of trusting. There's no right or wrong when it comes to the Sabbath. I see it as you're completely okay with the outcome of the imaginal acts. You have fulfilled an imagination. It is done. You don't care how or when it'll express, because you already gave the desire to you in imagination, and you don't separate your imagination from reality, meaning you don't assign a higher priority to your reality than your imagination. You see, one of the central ideas of Neville Goddard's teaching is removing the line separating imagination and reality. We've been conditioned to believe that imagination is imagination, as in it's fake, but reality is real. However, if you treat imagination as fake, what will happen is you'll end up waiting, and waiting is a state. If you wait, you'll be keeping it in the future. Everything is in the now. Live as if your wish has been fulfilled. If you already have your desire, what would you do? What would you not do? What will your friends say about you? Will they congratulate you? Live in that state. I'm not saying that you should do so 24/7, but whenever you find yourself snapping out of it to the opposite degree, when you feel paranoid, then you should remind yourself of that state. We are taught to treat imagination as fake, as in it's something wrong, as in we are escaping from our reality, from from ourselves, but that is completely untrue. There's no right or wrong when it comes to Sabbath or imagination. I see the Sabbath as you are completely okay with the outcome of the imaginal acts. You have fulfilled in imagination, it's done. You don't care how or when it'll express because you already gave the desire to yourself in imagination. You can give it to yourself in imagination every time you feel out of the desired state. But also there's nothing wrong with just enjoying your desire in imagination because it feels good. You know you have it. You don't imagine thinking, if I think so and so a lot, I'm going to speed up things. No, don't do that. You aren't imagining for an outcome. You are imagining to live in the state. It's quite paradoxical because we affirm and practice subconsciously to manifest our desires, but we imagine to feel the manifested reality already, to feel that end state. I'm thinking so and so because it feels good and I just want to experience an imagination. It's also fun if you learn how to remove the lines separating imagination and reality. You are God, dwell in your imagination. The 3D is not real, it's old news. It merely echoes your past beliefs, and sometimes, I wouldn't say sometimes, always, it's the bridge of incidents. So some of the quote-unquote negative events that's happening in your reality is not even echoes of your past beliefs, but rather it's a part of the plot that leads you to your desire. For instance, I imagine every day when I have the time and my mind is free, like recording this video right now. When I'm going to work or exercising, I generally focus on the present moment, but say when I'm on a bus ride or I'm doing something where my focus isn't necessary, I doze off to that imagined state. But this isn't because I want to speed things up or something like that, but because I know it's where the reality is. That imagination itself is the reality, and I can experience whatever I want from that state. So to sum it all up, Sabbath is a mental place where you don't have an urge to manifest certain things anymore because you've already manifested it in your imagination. And so you are not using Sabbath state as a means to an end. Rather, it is the end. It is the realization of the end. That subtle feeling in your gut that makes you think that imagination or affirmations are completely unnecessary. Your subconscious is so saturated with the desired thing that you feel no urge to affirm, visualize, or think about it. I want you to close your eyes for a few minutes and conjure the end state. Remember, don't think of the end, but from the end.